Hey, what's up guys, and welcome in today's video where I'm gonna show you 5 techniques to balance your kick and bass. So before starting with this tutorial, I would like to remind you that we're gonna use samples from our pack Mirage Volume 3, which is a collection of tech house one-shots, loops and serum presets that you can check out from the link in the description below. So let's start with the first technique, and it's actually not a technique but a recommendation. So the first thing that you want to do before starting to balancing the kick and the bass line is making sure that you have the right kick drum. So here I have 2 examples of 2 different kicks. The first one is one kick from our Mirage sample pack, and another one is 909 kick that we have in Ableton. So let's hear the difference. So what we're looking for, especially in electronic music, it's good attack and a good body. As you can see, this kick has a really nice attack and also a lot of volume here in the body. While if you go on the 909, we have way too much attack, as you can see from this peak, and the body is actually very low. In this case in particular, we also have a very long tail, which is not ideal if you have a present bass line. Then the second tip is actually working on the tails of the kick drum. So here I have 2 examples. So that's the first one. So here we have a bass line and the kick drum. As you can see, the bass line has a lot of frequencies. It's a really present bass line. Let's hear it in solo. So it contains a lot of information. In this case, when you are choosing the kick drum, you want to make sure that the kick has a short tail. As you can see in this case, precisely when the tail of the kicks end, we have the bass line starting here. So this is kind of a perfect match. And in this case, the bassline is gonna have kind of a priority in your mix since it's most present, while the kick is only working on the attack section, and the body and the end of the tail are a bit reduced. We also have an opposite example of a bassline that doesn't contain that many frequencies, with the kick instead that it's very much present. So as you can see, this kick has a really long tail and also has a lot of body, and it works very well with this bassline, which only has a few audio information. So let's hear the bass in solo. Also, the bassline is on an higher key, which makes it easier for a kick which is on a lower key to sit well in the mix. So this is how they sound together. So yeah, basically this is the 2 different occasions that you can have. So the first one is a short kick with a long and present bass line. The other one is a long kick with a lot of body and a long tail with a shorter and higher bass line. The third technique is an EQ technique. So we're going to use the FabFilter Pro Q3, which I think is the best in this case. And what we're going to do is going to be selecting some frequencies here in the bass line that we want to reduce or that we want to boost, and we're gonna do the opposite EQ on the kick. So let's do it here. So as you can see, we have a lot of frequency here in this 116 Hz range, and what we're gonna do is we're simply gonna copy this EQ, paste it on the kick drum, and we're gonna reduce it by, let's say, 3 dB, even a bit less. And obviously we can also do the other way around. So if you want to do the opposite, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go on the kick and you're gonna see the key of the kick, and it's simply by seeing which is the highest peak here in the spectrum. So we can see that the kick is in E, so we're gonna put this to 0. We're gonna copy the EQ, we're gonna go on the bass line, so let's remove our previous EQ, and we're gonna drag this down by a couple of dB. And in this way we are obviously gonna make more space for the kick drum, and in general the two frequencies won't overlap. The fourth technique is something that I think most of you have heard of if you are in music production, which is sidechaining. So as you can see here, we have done a bit of sidechaining with the LFO tool, but we're gonna disable it for now so that you can hear what the kick and bass sound like without sidechaining. So as you can see, when the kick and the bass line are playing together, we are having some issues due to the fact that basically they are covering the same frequency spectrum. So there are a few ways that you can do that. The easiest one is probably just to grab a compressor. Here in Ableton you can select sidechain audio from the kick, which is the channel 3, and then you can just move the threshold down and adjust the ratio, attack and release settings. And here basically you have a visual of what's going on, so the volume reduction when the kick is hitting. If you want to use a plugin, I really like LFO tool because you can shape the sidechain however you want. So this is what we have here. But for example, we can make it a bit more aggressive. And we can also play with the mix. And we also have like a cool image representation here as well. And the last trick that I'm gonna explain for this tutorial is gonna be the actual volume relationship between the kick drum and the bass line. So for this we are gonna use the view meter. So I'm gonna disable the limiter in this case, and what we're gonna do is solo the kick and making sure that the kick is at -3 on the view meter. So what you have to keep in mind is that this is not actually the peak that you see here. So once we are at -3, the kick is not gonna hit at -3 dB on the peak in the master. This is because the view meter is not measuring the peak level but the RMS level. So let's start with the kick drum. So as you can see, we are way over, and we can simply drag the kick drum down. So we are peaking at -3, and what we're gonna do now is adding the bass, and the kick and the bass together have to hit at around 0. Okay, perfect. This is 0 precisely. And now this might sound a bit too low for your mix. Now that you have the balance, you can simply drag them back up. And take back the Pro L. And this is not a rule, obviously, this is just a recommendation, like a starting point for your mix if you wanna have a kind of a practical guide on how to balance the kick and the bass line. Obviously, this won't work in all the cases, but it can be a good reference to start your mix. Yeah, and basically these are all the 5 techniques to balance your kick and bass. Don't forget to check out the Mirage Volume 3 from the link in the description below. Let us know what tutorials would you like to see next, and I'll see you soon. Bye.